If we cannot move in East Africa, how can we move in Africa? East Africa, we must be able to sort this. We must be able to work with government to create or to eliminate those barriers that prevent us from allowing movement of labor. Capacity building, especially for our SMEs, if you had an opportunity to work continental opportunity. Local content. This issue of local content is very interesting, especially for mega projects. In Kenya, we talk 40% local content. We've just finished SGR phase 1. How can Eabc, KEPSA come, document some of the lessons learned with SGR phase 1, so that when we are having SGR going into Uganda or Tanzania taking up a mega project, the lessons that we have learned can be replicated in these other countries as far as private sector encashing on mega projects. How are we getting skill transfer to our people so that they can be able to take future projects? Today, it's very loosely put, because it's not part of the contract. And private sector normally is not so much involved in coming up with these projects. These are government-to-government projects. But what we want as private sector, strongly Eabc and country organizations, associations to work on, is to ensure that at the point of contract, we have the local content component be a mandatory requirement for materials available locally. I think that is still a big issue, and yet it will give private sector greater opportunity. Counterfeits and fake products, they don't only pose risk to our consumers, but also deny business opportunity to supply cost-effective products to the market. So I see greater opportunity and collaboration between Eabc and lobby groups, counterfeit agencies across the region to really tackle this issue, whether it is in spare parts, whether it is in pharmaceutical, whatever industries that we are participating in, we need to really work very closely to ensure that the next phase of Eabc, we are able to deliver on some of this. Closer to my industry, age limit of used vehicle, we don't have a policy for that cuts across the region. Kenya is 8 years, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi is unlimited. We cannot say we are an EAC when we have pieces of legislation that don't talk on the same policy. So I think for my sector, that is a big opportunity, because South Africa, Egypt, Europe, they develop their manufacturing sector by putting in legislation that helps them to scale up in terms of production. We are over 150 million East Africans, but only 10% of the 250,000 vehicles that are sold in East Africa annually are new. So we're playing just about 15,000 new vehicles across the region, and we have capacity today to do close to 40,000 vehicles within the East African region. So this is some of the pieces as we advance manufacturing that we really need to work on and look at. So overall, great achievement. Let's celebrate Eabc. We will get to learn quite a bit from other sectors, but we need to strengthen ourselves to be able to be that regional and global competitive region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Rita Kabashi and Nicholas Nesbitt, and of course our Bishop Stephen Karanja for the first half. Let's all please appreciate our three speakers who've opened up the first session of this program. At this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, just to give you an overview, when I cue us to stand, we're going to stand and welcome the Prime Minister from Uganda, and also welcome CS Aidan Mohammed together with also EAC Secretary General, that's Ambassador Liberator Fumukeko. We'll all stand. We'll have the anthem. After we have the anthem, I'll then hand over the program to Mr. Patrick Obath to continue with the program.
Mungu twaomba uilinde Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Have the Kenya National Anthem. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may have your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, Right Honorable Dr. Ruhakana Rugunda is the Prime Minister from the Republic of Uganda. I should mention also Cabinet Secretary in charge of trade, looking at industry and cooperatives, that's CS Aidan Mohammed. I should also want to recognize Ambassador Liberator Fumukeko, who is the East African Community Secretary General. I should also mention and recognize CS Cabinet Secretary in charge of East African Community Affairs, as Peter Munya, and East African Business Council Chairman, that's Jim Cabell. All protocols observed. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. So can I say, buy East Africa, build East Africa? There we go. Buy East Africa. Buy East Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored and glad to have the presence of our dignitaries right here on stage. This would not have been possible, of course, not for the auspices of the East African Business Council. At this point in time, just to facilitate the program and to continue with where we're headed next, allow me now to welcome gentleman who will take up from me on this point is the East African Community, former Eabc Director, and now Associate Director of Eduardo and Associates. Ladies and gentlemen, to take us through this program, please help me welcome on stage Mr. Patrick Obath to take over the floor. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The protocol has been observed by my friend Laban Clayton Serio, so thank you very much. And my role is to take you through the next session, and we'd like to really keep up on time so that we're able to finish the program. You have a long day today, ending up with the awards dinner tonight. So my role is basically to ensure that you arrive there fresh for the evening. It's my pleasure to first of all invite the Executive Director of the East African Business Council, Ms. Lilian Awinja, to tell us a little bit about the journey that the East African Business Council has taken so far. Lilian, please, you could come forward.
Thank you very much. Right Honorable Dr. Ruhakana Rugunda, Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda, representing His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda, Right Honorable Dr. Alhaji Kirunda Kivejinja, Chair of the EAC Council of Ministers, Honorable Aidan Mohammed, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Cooperatives, representing His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, Honorable Peter Munya, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of EAC Affairs and Northern Corridor from the Republic of Kenya, Ambassador Liberator Fumukeko, EAC Secretary General, Mr. Jim Kabeho, Chair of the East African Business Council. It's my
distinguished honor to thank you very much for being here and for accepting our invitation to be part of the East African Business Council 20th anniversary celebration, which starts this morning, and we proceed until we have the Eabc Business Excellence Awards this evening. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Prime Minister, for joining us for this celebration and all the dignitaries. I also want to thank the Eabc board members, past chairs, invited guests, members of the business community, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for honoring our call. This morning, I would like to take a few minutes to talk about the journey this far. Eabc was launched in 1997, November, and this was at the request of the East African community and the partner states, requesting the private sector to come up with a body that would then be the point of consultation within the EAC integration process. It has been a good 20 years since then. A lot of things have taken place. We've seen a lot of development within the integration process, and Eabc has been working closely with the East African Community Secretariat, consulting with the private sector and giving input into the integration process. All this has not been easy. It has been championed by business people who have taken time off their businesses to be able to input into the process. I want to thank our founding chairs, the chairmen who have steered Eabc all this time, and they are here with us. We will be recognizing them this evening. We appreciate your coming to see this 20th anniversary celebration take off. The theme for this event is called, Beyond East Africa, From Aspiration to Action. I think you've seen that in the documents we have been sharing with you. Now, that theme is very strategic in the sense that we are seeing EAC moving to the next level within the next 20 years. We have been talking about the East African community integration, and we have been making changes. The public sector has been quite responsive in making amendments to the policies at regional and national level to ensure that we can have a business environment that is conducive to business growth and development. Now, the role of Eabc has been to make sure that our inputs are taken on board. And I must say here today that the public sector has been very, very responsive. In many cases, we have been thinking ahead of the public sector because we are always saying, let's move faster. Although the integration process is moving, we think it is moving slower than we want it to. There are still quite a bit of bottlenecks, Honorable Prime Minister. There are still a bit of very high costs in terms of doing business. Eabc has been pushing very hard, and sometimes it doesn't augur very well with the public sector, but we request for your understanding that the private sector wants the integration process to work. We want the integration process to move faster so that we can be able to take advantage of the opportunities that are availed by the common market, the customs union, and now the monetary union. The Eabc has played this role in a number of ways. One, we have been working on the non-tariff barriers. We had a meeting with President Museveni a few years back, and we requested for the non-tariff, the East African community non-tariff barriers mechanism for elimination of non-tariff barriers to be established. That has been part of our advocacy. That is one of the things that was established after we requested through the summit. So we had a meeting with the President of Kenya, the President of Uganda, and that was established by the Council of Ministers approving it. Then we have also the consultative dialogue framework. We went around all the 5 partner states before the Republic of South Sudan joined in to request for a consultative dialogue framework that allows public sector, private sector, other interest groups to sit down for consultations. Through that process, we established the East African Community Secretary General CEO Forum. That was a major achievement because many of the achievements between 2011 and now have come up because the public sector sat down with the private sector to discuss the challenges within the integration process and then come up with recommendations that are then implemented jointly by the public sector and the private sector. We have seen a lot of developments, Right Honorable Prime Minister, through that process. And we appreciate that the public sector responded to our call, and we have been sitting down to do that. Eabc has been doing a lot of research and studies across the region, identifying key bottlenecks through research. So we've done research on various topics across sectors, and this research usually is submitted to the EAC Secretary General. So Honorable Mfumukeko, we thank the EAC Secretary General that we have been submitting recommendations to the EAC, and they are taken up through the decision-making process, sent to the partner states for review and for consideration, and we've seen that changes taking place because of those inputs. The harmonization of East African standards has been taking place. I remember when Eabc started the East African Standards Platform, we did a study called the 20 most traded goods in East Africa. So we looked at which goods are being traded across the borders, across the region. And because those goods need to be cleared quickly across the border to go into the next partner state, we came up with a request for the East African Standard Management Committee, which is under the East African Community, to identify, to specifically work on those products, give them, start the harmonization of standards so that when they reach the border, the clearance is faster. That process is a bit slow, but it is on course, it is ongoing. We've seen a lot of standards harmonized, we've seen goods able to move across the region, and we've also done a study to identify the impact of that harmonization. You'll find a copy of that document at the Eabc exhibition booth. The impact study shows that for the goods that have been harmonized across the region, whose standards have been harmonized, the cost of crossing the border has reduced, and also the time that it takes to cross the border has reduced, because now bureaus of standards can recognize each other's bureau standards mark, and there is faster clearance at the border. The revenue authorities have been also very responsive in terms of improving the process of clearance of goods. So Eabc has been working under a program called meeting with trade facilitation agencies across EAC partner states. We've seen responses to the delays we've been talking about, and we have, the process has now improved. Although it's not at its best, work is ongoing to make sure that those processes are improved. We have seen the trade in services liberalization. We've also done studies. We've consulted the private sector. We've come up with recommendations. That process, I can report this morning, it is very slow. It is still ongoing, but it is still slow. We still need the liberalization of trade in services to be improved. But we are continuing to work on that with the EAC Secretariat. On the EAC CET review, Eabc has been working with the Directorate of Customs and Trade at the EAC to look at our CET and, of course, the ongoing current comprehensive review of the common external tariff, to look at the items that need change in terms of the CET, to look at the sensitive list. Do we still need all those items on the sensitive list? Some of those inputs have been taken across the years through the annual reviews, but currently we are also looking at the comprehensive review. We've submitted our requests to the EAC Secretariat and to the partner states, and made recommendations on what areas we think need change under the common external tariff. Now, we've been holding public-private dialogues across the years, over these 20 years, especially from 2007 until now. We've held a lot of public-private dialogues, which we have initiated as Eabc, to sit on the table with the public sector. So identify the issues and then discuss and make recommendations that are agreed by both sectors. So we've had public-private dialogues on tax harmonization, on technical regulations, among others. Looked at those areas and sat down and discussed what would be the best way to implement the recommendations. Those are recommendations from the private sector and the public sector combined. So we are working with the various departments and ministries and the EAC Secretariat to see that those recommendations, although as a private sector we feel that some recommendations take too long to be implemented, but we see the responsiveness of the public sector to identify those areas and take them forward. But the call this morning is that let us do it faster. There are some recommendations that we have made which have been received at high level. For example, we have recommended as Eabc the ban on importation of used clothes and footwear. So that we have done last year, and the heads of state actually appreciated that and gave a directive that we should actually implement that at partnerships level. The process is ongoing, but it is very slow. There is a bit of still some discussions to see whether we will do it or not. But right, Honorable Prime Minister, as Eabc, we've seen the need to go ahead with that proposal in another practical manner. That is why the theme in this conference, we asked that we should wear clothes that are East African with an East African traditional touch. So we are saying we have kitenge, we have kikoi, we have Masai shuka. We want to see people wearing those clothes and going with them to work. So we requested that the delegates should wear that. So if you are not wearing that shirt or that trouser there at the exhibition, please buy one and put on, especially the high table. Please pick one and wear and look like me. And then for the dinner, that will be the dress code when we are coming in. So please don't miss the dinner. If you miss, perhaps we will think you didn't get the shirt to wear. So that is a practical way of appreciating. And we also asked the heads of state when we were inviting them that they should announce that every Friday should be a day to wear our East African wear. So your kitenge, your Masai shuka. So we are expecting that in your speech, you will also include that. And we have business people, we have the private sector who are manufacturing this in all the EAC countries. We want to see that implemented so that we can consume what we produce. It is very important. And we all look beautiful, isn't it? If you are wearing this shirt, just lift up your hand. You are all beautiful. So let us do it. Thank you very much, Chair. I will not take more time. I think Patrick wants me to leave the stage. In conclusion, I want to take this opportunity to continue to thank you very much. The Ministry of EAC Affairs Kenya has been very supportive in bringing this, everything for this conference together. We really appreciate, and we appreciate the EAC Secretariat for supporting us in many other ways to convene this meeting. Thank you very much.
Mine is to now start and get us through this and invite Mr. Jim Kabeho, the East African Business Council Chairman, to make his remarks.
Our chief guest, Right Honorable Prime Minister of Uganda, all protocol observed, ladies and gentlemen. I'll start as we celebrate, let's remember, and therefore I ask all of you to stand up as we remember the past 3 chairmen of East African Business Council who did a good work but are no longer with us. Can we stand up and mark 1 minute of silence? These include Mr. Elvis Musiba from Tanzania, the late James Murwana from Uganda, and last year, the late Kasum Omar, also from Uganda. May their soul rest in eternal peace. I have apologies from my board member of Advocacy and Policy, Stuart Roofings, who arrived here last evening to attend this meeting, but unfortunately lost his mom and has had to return. We also have our prayers for one of our board members from Kenya, Ambassador Kerry Kidi, who's been sick for some time. So he's the father of Bosco. These need our prayers. They have been sick and admitted for quite some time. Well, that said and done, I want to welcome all of you. I think Lydian has given our history, and only say that we celebrated this 20 years with recognizing yesterday the East African women in business, headed by their chairman, my sister and friend, Tuma, I don't know where she's gone. And The women have exhibitions, and the companies also have exhibition here for Made in East Africa. So it was a successful day. Our council started as a small office. I remember in '89, we used to go to Arusha when we were negotiating the free trade area. I was part of that, and I see Felix Mosh here and some of the members, Bosco Sagar and the like. We had a small office, one person, Moses Ogwar, running it at one time, which has grown into a full-fledged secretariat at Eabc with our own offices run by executive director with many directors who are consultants that do our policy and advocacy work, including doing other consultant work. We also have a full-fledged board now with representatives from 4 representatives from each country and a number of corporates and associations that form this business council of ours. We are happy as we celebrate 20 years that we've been part and parcel of the formation right from the beginning for the free trade area in '89, the customs union in 2005, the common market in 2010, and the recent signing of the monetary union in 2013. And we continue to be part of this meaningful marriage because we create the resources and the government do the policy and the spending. And we are happy to do that, and we continue to do that. We also been part and parcel of the tripartite, where we've participated in the COMESA and SADC and EAC meetings. And we've had great relations with the Secretary General. I'm happy we've had a number of meetings with him. The national chapters, we have national chapters on each country, in each country that support us. And in April, we are going to Sudan to launch and recruit the chapter for Southern Sudan. So we are really moving forward, and we want all your support. About 2 years ago, we are officially recognized by the EAC Secretariat and the Summit as the only apex body representing private sector, and we've started appearing on the Summit's program. It's still small, but we've started appearing, which is very good. We have a platform for women in business at the Eabc, and we are happy, as I said yesterday, to recognize this because we've seen it is the only way we can move forward. Women, if empowered economically, they'll move faster and move the business, become our market, create enough for our society, because the women provide food, medical, they look after our children. So if we don't empower them economically, we realize that we are losing a very great partnership. With this on, we have had regional partnerships, joint ventures, collaborations within the region, and I see many countries opening up in different regions, making expansion, and we believe this has come from the integration. And besides the above protocols, the governments, I want to recognize you for starting off the big infrastructure developments in terms of roads, standard gauge railway, ports, dams, and the exploitation of minerals, oil and gas. All these are starting now as we celebrate, and it's our wish as private sector that we'll participate fully and get the gains that come with them. With those challenges mentioned and what Lydian said, we still have a number of challenges, and since our work is policy and advocacy, I think I do mention one or two which we think our government representatives here can look at as you go back. I know most of them we've discussed together. I've been in your meeting for many times, Honorable Prime Minister, but allow me to repeat them. agreed positions in the protocols. We lack implementation. We agree, many times we go and say we are so many millions, a market of so many millions for East Africa. But when you come on the ground, at times you cannot move your product from one region to another. So if you're a serious investor, that becomes not true that we have that business. So when we invest for East Africa. But when there are these problems that come in, then they stop, they hinder our morale or impetus to continue investing. Another one is competition, allowing competition within the region. She mentioned about the harmonization of standards, internal taxes, liberalization of airspace, communication. All these do not allow competition. And we would want a well-leveled ground for competition so that we can act and we can work. But if you go to ring Tanzania, it's more expensive than ringing India. Then you do business with India before you do with Tanzania. If I'm to fly from Kampala to Bujumbura, and I'm spending more than I spend to fly to South Africa or Dubai, I'll go to Dubai. So I'm not integrating with Dubai. I'm not integrating with South Africa yet, until recently. But I'm integrating with Burundi. So it should be easier for me to go to Burundi than to go to Dubai. That's the point I'm talking, that we should allow competition within the region. Then another point I want to mention of is the local content. This we have discussed, and I'm happy there is some movement. My Minister for Works is here. I'm happy. Before I came, I coordinate the steel industry. I